What's up, y'all? I'm here in beautiful Charleston, South Carolina, right here on the beach, and was just reflecting on a couple conversations I've had in the past week or two, that one of which generated $600,000 for me inside 38 minutes. Another one increased my net worth by about $3.5 million inside an hour. I'm gonna share both of those conversations with you right now. So the first conversation happened last week, and we're trying to sell a 200-unit apartment complex that's in Georgia. And this 200-unit apartment complex we have on the market for $11.4 million. So it's about $57,000 per unit. We had an offer that came in at like $8 million bucks. And then all of a sudden, I was letting my dispositions team communicate with them, and they got them up to around $10.8 million, and they would not budge off of $10.8 million. I said, hey, set up a phone call and let's all hop on together. So I hop on the phone call, and for 38 minutes, we talked. For those 38 minutes, I explained how important it was that we could not move off of our price point. We had a certain amount of debt, we had a certain amount of loans, we had lenders that we had to pay off and liens that we had to pay off on the property, and we weren't able to sell it at 10.8. So I set the stage right out of the gate that you guys can't come up. It's not even worth continuing the conversation. That's okay, right? We're all friends. I'm not playing hardball with you. I'm not trying to beat you up on price point or anything along those lines. It's just the reality of the situation is I cannot come off of my 11.4 million. Let's be proactive, right, and resourceful in finding another solution. And so tell me what's important to you. And I have this conversation, we go down this path of, well, here's this and here's that, and here's something that we're worried about, and here's blah, blah, blah. And I was able to overcome essentially every single objection and reframe in their mind, they're at $54,000 a door. I'm at $57,000 a door. There's no reason that we can't bridge that gap of only $3,000 per door. If that's gonna make that big of a difference to them and their financials, they probably shouldn't be doing the deal anyways, because there's not enough meat on the bone. But there is. This is something that could be worth $100,000 a door once it's all stabilized. We were selling it in a non-stabilized state. I was able to then explain that to them. And here, if you do this, if you do that, we're gonna deliver it at this certain percentage of occupancy with this certain number of units that are rent ready. You're able to come in, and I kind of created the business plan for them over the course of 38 minutes. And in that 38 minutes, they said, you know what, Tim? We're good with coming up to $11.4 million. In 38 minutes, it generated $600,000 worth of additional revenue on this disposition of this property. And I started thinking, I did this and I went through these activities early on in my career of what am I spending my time on, focused on those revenue generating activities, but then I kind of got away from it. I got a few too many degrees away from that revenue generating line, or allowed myself to be consumed by lesser dollar amounts per hour, right? Literally, if you hour that out, if I made $600,000 in 38 minutes, that's about $900,000, a little over $900,000 an hour. It's almost $1 million an hour. And what would it look like? What would my business look like? What would my life look like if I just focused all of my time on that? If I spent 25, 30 hours a week on $1 million an hour conversations, what would that do for my net worth? What would it do for my business? What would it do for my peace of mind? It was really cemented in a following conversation. Had a deal that was a pretty hairy deal in Texas, big deal in Texas also, and almost gave it back to the bank 2 years ago. There was a bunch of fraud and a bunch of nonsense that happened with it. Had some other operating partners that weren't willing or able to contribute capital to it, and just didn't have the team maybe in place in order to turn the ship around. We stepped in and brought on $17 million of private money, moved my staff to the site, turned this entire thing around inside 24 months. But because we increased the cost basis by about $17 million, things were a little bit tight. I had already had a conversation with one of the lenders, the mezzanine lender, and I was able to get added to their captive insurance policy. By getting added to their captive insurance policy, it took my insurance cost from $1.1 million a year down to $536,000. That's $564,000 of additional cash flow that the property has. It goes straight to the bottom line in net operating income, that increased the property value by over $10 million at a 5.5% cap rate. Not only that, but in continuing conversations with that lender, they also told me about a tax exemption strategy that they were going through on a couple other properties of theirs in Texas. And I hop on a phone call on that Friday with their tax exemption consultant and realize I could put a 99-year tax exemption in place on this property that would reduce my property taxes by 80%. My property taxes are about $1 million a year, and it would take it down to around $200,000. That's another $800,000 of savings. It's about almost $70,000 a month. And not only that, but the lender, I was in the process of getting refinanced as well, but the lender's willing to give us more leverage because that expense doesn't exist anymore. So now the NOI is higher and we're able to get more loan proceeds, which is gonna allow me to take out probably, at that valuation, that 800 grand increases the property value by about $15 million, maybe a little bit more. So I can get probably another $10 million of loan proceeds, which is gonna help me cash out the mezzanine lender at 18% and put a new loan in place around 6.5% interest rate, which saves me another $100,000 a month, about 1.2 a year. So just that single conversation increased the property's cash flow by $2 million a year, increased the property's valuation by $15 or $16 million, and I own about a third of the property. So my personal net worth, because I had that conversation and I pursued this fix of our property taxes and a couple of the other, I was able to then increase the property value by 15 million. That increases my net worth by $5 million because of a 1-hour conversation that I had. Again, it just slapped me in the face a couple times in the same week of what am I spending my time on? And so I'm gonna sit down, even though this is a decade later after I did the first time of reviewing where am I spending my time? Is it revenue generating? Is it not revenue generating? Is it happy? Is it not happy? I'm sitting down right now and I'm cataloging my time for the next 7 days again. And instead of just a smiley face and a frowny face and a dollar sign and a zero, I'm still gonna put a smiley face and a frowny face, but I'm also gonna put a dollar amount. Is this a $100 activity, a $1,000 activity, a $10,000 activity, a $100,000 activity, or a $1 million activity? And I am going to now, that I have a team especially, right? It's a different animal than what I was a decade ago. I can now take all the $100,000, $1,000, and even $10,000 an hour in activities and disperse those to the team. And I'm doing my team a better service by focusing on the $100,000 and $1 million an hour activities. And if I can focus on that, everything else falls into place. My team's gonna be set up better, I'm gonna be set up better, our businesses are gonna be set up better, all because we're focused on the highest and best use of our time. So I would challenge you to do this. Go home, actually put a spreadsheet together. You can make it up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then just do the times every 15 minutes and then print it out and then fill it out. Set your alarm to go off every 15 minutes and snooze it every 15 minutes. And then so that it reminds you to then write down what you did. And it could be anything. It could be walking the dog on the beach. It could be working out. It could be having breakfast. It could be getting cleaned up. It could be taking the kids to school, hanging out with the family, hanging out with your spouse, or actual work level activities. And I'm talking about the time that you spend that's dedicated to economics and how much time inside of that you should be making as much money as humanly possible. So look at the time that's dedicated and allocated towards your business and only focus on the highest revenue generating activities that are out there. Because it slapped me in the face over the past week of I'm not even dedicating enough time to those activities and I need to be doing more of that. So I think all of us can be doing that and implementing it in our business, and it's probably something we should be doing on an annual basis. So go do that. Tell me how it works out for you. I can't wait to hear what the next 12 months looks like for you.